Hey folks, Sam here at NA Studios. Thanks for checking the video out. I've just got finished doing a pretty big mastering job and it got me thinking about limiters, about the different sounds of limiters, because I've never really thought of a limiter as having that much of a sound. I know others do. And it got me thinking about the kind of best limiters around and the features that different limiters have, because for me, I'm typically using a limiter for one thing, for just limiting. Like I'll stick it on true peak and I just don't want anything to exceed that. But loads of different limiters have loads of different features as well. So I want to take a look at a few popular ones and find out which is, I don't want to say the best, I just want to see how they all sound. I want to see which ones sound the most transparent at high gain levels and the different features on different limiters, how much these can actually make stuff sound clean and basically what you're getting for your money. So I'm going to take a look at a few. The first one is the Waves L2, which as we all know, kind of gets a bad rap for being a little bit smashy, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Then I want to take a look at the Line Master. This is the Safari Pedals plugin, and it's known for kind of being quite transparent, but you can do low gain and high gain into it, which is really handy. Then the famous Fabfilter Pro L2. Now, I've had to get an evaluation license for this because I've never used it. I've heard great things. I've heard it's really transparent, but I don't know. I'm going to check it out more or less for the first time. And then FGX2 from Slate Digital, which I have used in the past and I like. It's got a compressor in there and it's got a few little features which we'll take a look at. And then the Ozone Maximizer. So this is the classic Ozone. And it's got the different IRC levels, the different kind of features in there, as well as soft clip and now upward compression in Ozone 11. Loads of fun stuff in there. And then the last one is the BX Masterdesk Pro. This is the Brainworks one. This is the Plugin Alliance kind of distributed one, which I like. And I think has got a load of great features, but we're not necessarily looking at all the features initially. We're looking at how we can get them to sound kind of clean and at enormous gain levels, how smashy are they going to get? And then how much are those extra features going to help non-smashiness, if that makes sense. Either way, let's check them out. So I've got them all lined up here. We've got Waves L2, Line Master, Pro L, FGX2, Maximizer, and Masterdesk. Now, one thing that I've noticed about these is that most of them sound pretty neutral on their own, but Masterdesk Pro does change things slightly when it's just engaged. Let's just take a listen to all of them as we go along. No gain added, no compression, no limiting, no anything. Turn everything off. Just take a listen. Now, Masterdesk Pro kind of brings the level down, and I've tried to match that a little bit by bringing the levels of all these down by like 1.5 dB. It's still not quite there, so let's try and match those just a little bit more. It's not bad, but I think this Masterdesk Pro, don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's absolutely great, but it seems to be just taking something away. I've turned off the XL, I've turned off Foundation, I've turned off the compressor, it's at 0%, I've turned off everything I can think of, and it's still doing a little bit of something. So what that is, I'm not entirely sure, but let's start off by giving stuff a load of gain and seeing how crunchy it is and how much it's like changing the sound basically. Okay, so adding 5 dB of gain to all of them. The L2 works in a slightly different way. You have to just lower the threshold, which if you're bringing the threshold down, it's kind of the same as putting stuff up into the threshold. So instead of saying like, give me 5 dB more gain, it's saying bring the threshold down 5 dB. It's essentially the same thing. So I'm turning everything off. I'm going to turn off this ARC and everything else is turned off. We're just getting 5 dB of extra gain from all of the limiters. Let's go. Some weirdness there. Just my system going crazy. I can't hear any difference, which is good because any modern limiter kind of worth its salt should be able to achieve 5 dB without going too crazy. So let's go up. Let's go to 10. Okay, here we are at 10 dB of extra gain. I'm expecting that we're going to hear some sort of smashiness, and here's my prediction. I think that L2 is going to be smashy. I think Line Master is going to be a little bit smashy, but still quite clean. I reckon Fabfilter, everyone says how clean it is, so I think that's probably going to be quite clean. I think Maximizer is going to be clean. I think Master Desk is going to be clean. I think FGX is going to have a little bit of a tone, but I don't think it's going to be too smashy. Let's see if I'm right. L2 first. That's interesting. So less about the kind of smash and more about the kind of tone curve that they're imparting. So I think this is often down to the kind of additional features, but just take a listen to the Maximizer when compared to the Pro L2. They're pretty similar. They both add a certain coloration to the sound, but the FGX2, I don't feel like added anything like the same kind of tone. I feel like it was probably a little bit cleaner. Let's have a listen. And a little bit quieter as well. It's not quite got the same level there, has it? It's bringing it down a little bit more. Let's try and match that. L2 adds a bit more level and kind of feels a little smashier. Interesting. Let's go. Would you ever need to add 15 dB of gain? I don't know. Let's find out if you can. Oh, that scuppered that because you can only add 12 dB on the master desk. Okay, 12 dB it is. Let's see if we can get these all sounding nice and smashy. Okay, so 12 dB of gain added to all of them. I think I'm going to have to re-level these because it seems like at more extreme gain reduction levels, then they're all kind of, the output is not quite matched, but we'll see. So L2 first. Okay, this is interesting. I think FGX sounds really clean, like really, really clean. And I've just got it on like the clear mode at the moment. I've not got it on any of the other kind of transparency modes. You get a few different ones that you can do here, tight, punchy and loud. I believe some of them are kind of working better at different frequency bands. So some of them are meant to make the low end less compressed, but we're just talking about a kind of a general thing here. But FGX, that sounds very punchy to me. I'm actually going to bring that up to the top because that sounds punchy, tight, and like it's not really slamming transients at all. So up the top is the punchiest, and let's put the smashiest down at the bottom. Let's go again and take a listen. Did you hear that distortion? That is so smashy. Let's bring that down. I didn't actually notice that on the first listen, but now compared to the FGX when it's just next to it, it sounds really smashy. Let's go for the others. That's quite difficult to say. I think the Pro L2 and the Maximizer are fairly unsmashy. The L2 is just super smashy. So we should be going, if we go from the bottom, we should be starting off with smashed, and then we should be kind of opening up as we go. Listen to the snare, listen to how crushed that sounds. That's normally a pretty good indicator. That's interesting because on the FGX, it doesn't feel like it's really clamping down at all. It feels like it's just kind of making it louder, which is great, obviously. But I think I'm going to switch on the Maximizer and Line Master because it feels like Line Master is a little bit cleaner. And Maximizer is obviously louder. No, switching around, I think Line Master is clamping down that transient in the snare a little bit more. So they're kind of in a pretty good order, I feel like. They're going from non-smashiest at the top to the bottom. Now, that's fine, but would you ever really need to add 12 dB? I don't know, maybe you would, I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever added 12 dB at the mastering stage or on like a master bus limiting kind of stage. I don't know, maybe you have. Let me know if you have, because that's ridiculous. Let's have a look at the other controls that we've got though, because it's not just about smashiness, it's about an overall mastering suite, I guess, which is kind of an unfair metric because L2 has never professed to be a mastering suite. It's only ever said that it's a limiter, and that's all it is. But FGX2 is a bit of everything. It's got compression in there, it's got some of this weird sorcery as well, which is going to be bringing up the low frequencies and the detail. What I think is probably best to do is if we try and make each limiter sound as good as we can. So on the L2, for example, we're going to only be able to control, well, really the ARC, and it's automatic release, isn't it? But I kind of feel like having the release at the lowest is the way of getting it to be the least smashy, because if we listen to it when the release is all the way up, then it's going to be clamping down for absolutely ages. And it just gets pumpy and awful. But when we bring it there, yeah, it kind of feels like it's smoothest with the ARC on, so it's kind of just handling all the release constants for us. Let's take a look at FGX2 though, because this has got some interesting stuff in it. Let's try and make it sound as clean as possible. And I know that before it did sound pretty clean, so this is kind of ridiculous really. But let's see how far we can push it and how good and how natural we can get it to sound. Am I not using that constant gain monitoring right? Because it's still coming right down. Jesus, not entirely sure what's going on there. But it sounds like with this punch and with this detail, we're getting back even more of the clarity. And I don't feel like it's really killing it. I don't feel like it's actually making it work harder by adding some more of that low punch. I'm not going to go into absolutely everything because it would take too long. But I feel like this is a really transparent limiter. I think this is good. I like it. Just for fun, let's see if we can break it. Let's see how much we can bring it up before it starts getting smashy. So I think that constant gain monitoring is just about this. It's not in the same way as Ozone does gain match, where you can like turn it off and turn it on again, the actual whole plugin, and it will just match it. This is more of like an internal one, which is fine. Okay, that's cool. But I feel like once we get above kind of 14 dB of extra gain, we're getting a bit smashy. Yeah, okay, so we can get up to like 14 dB. That's pretty impressive. Now, Fabfilter Pro L2. I have no idea what other controls you have in here because I've never used it in my life. Advanced, whoa, okay, cool. All right, let's just play. Let's just see what we can do. So let's go for something very transparent. We said before it was pretty transparent, so let's see how much more transparent we can get. I'm just going to bring this level down because I don't fully understand how all of the like gain matching works on all of these because I'm lazy apparently. But let's see how we get on. So let's go for transparent this time. So safe turns it into a super smashy beast. Transparent is good. Even aggressive is not the most aggressive in the world. I would have said transparent is probably where we want to be living. And that sounds good. I like that. So we can do a lot of stuff to the transients here. So we can link transients in the channels so that it presumably it's like the opposite of having it as dual mono. Look ahead, is that going to change anything? I would say actually bring that look ahead up in this case is making it kind of smashier, which is weird. It says with shorter look ahead times, you can achieve greater loudness at the possible cost of distortion. Well, sounds like the opposite in this instance. As I'm bringing it up, it's getting more distorted. Weird. To me, that sounds good with the release all the way down, attack just kind of where it was before. 275 milliseconds, that's kind of long for a limiter. Let's bring that down. Oh, we're back on the L2 again. Nice, that still sounds pretty unsmashy. So can we link these? That is the question. Sidechain, what's that? Unity gain. Output will set the inverse. Yeah, there we go, that's what we want. Okay, so as I bring this up. Yeah, it's getting pretty smashy up there. I would have said that around here, even at that plus 12, it's when you compare it to the actual like Unity version, it's pretty aggressive. And I think that's probably because I've got the attack set a little bit faster now. Maybe if we bring that to where it was before, where it's meant to be, that was 275, wasn't it? Let's see if we can get that a bit louder without it being quite so aggressive. Seems to take a massive step between 12 and 13.5. Yeah, so it's getting quite aggressive, but I don't feel like it's bad aggressive. I don't feel like it actually sounds awful. It's getting a little bit smashier, but it doesn't really sound bad, which is good. So Ozone 11. Now we've got quite a lot of stuff here. We've got transient emphasis, which I like. Soft clip, which is brilliant for adding a bit of extra gain. Upward compression. I'm actually going to leave this off for now because it's not really dealing with the top level stuff. It's not dealing with the loud stuff. It's dealing with the quiet stuff. It's going to be compressing the quiet stuff up. So that's a little bit of the black sheep here, should we say, because none of the other ones really have anything like that. So we're not going to deal with that. Let's see if we can add a bit of soft clipping to get it a little bit louder. So soft clipping is kind of halfway between a compressor and a limiter. So it's going to start shaving off peaks far earlier before they then reach that limiter. So it's kind of helping the limiter out a little bit. So let's put that constant gain monitoring on and see what we can do. I think soft clip is going to be, it's kind of dealing with low level stuff again, but let's just see how it sounds. So I think that would allow us to get it much louder, but it's not about like peak loudness. It's about the overall kind of chunkiness of the lower stuff as well. So let's just see how much we can get out of this actual gain, and then we'll maybe have a look through some of these. Yeah, again, once we get above 12, it does get a little bit crazy. So let's go for transient. Modern is far crunchier. Transient sounds a lot cleaner. Transient is the one. So that doesn't lose any of its loudness, really. It just makes the peaks kind of a lot more peaky, a lot more pokey. So that's good. So we've got 13 dB out of that. That's really good. I like it. And IRC4 on transient seems to work. Let's take a look at Safari Pedals Lion Master. So this one, we've got a couple of different things. Saturation is going to be letting us, well, saturate, but it's going to get some of that low level stuff. So it's not the same as soft clipping. It's not the same as upward compression, but it's in the similar realm in that it's going to be bringing up kind of harmonic stuff. So take a listen. Yeah, we're kind of getting crunchy, so let's not worry too much about that. Let's just bring this up and see what we can get. So this doesn't have like a constant gain monitoring. It can't link the input to the output. So we're changing the level as we're doing it, but it's not too big a deal. But we've got low frequency gain and high frequency gain, which is interesting. So we can shove like the low end up into the limiter, and we're same with the high end. Let's try the high end first. Cool, so being able to do that, being able to put the high end up into the limiter kind of feels like you're opening it up a little bit. It feels like you're adding a little bit more in the kind of transient world. And we're not taking off an insane amount in terms of like the high end, but we're just able to add a little bit more in there. So it's making us kind of think that the transients are a little bit more open and retained than perhaps they are, which, you know, nobody's looking at your transients through a meter. It's about what they sound like. So in my book, that's pretty good. I like that. So the saturation will help it be a little bit more crunchy. We've got 10.5 dB out of it before it got too aggressive, which is decent. And then bringing up that high frequency gain, we can make it so that it's a little bit less obvious that it's being limited. That's cool. I like that. Let's take a look at Smashiest Pro. Now this one has got all manner of different stuff that we can do to it. Bring this one down again so we can see what's going on. Now we can compress it beforehand. Yeah, I don't particularly want to do that. I don't really want to deal with any This is all like EQ and mid-side stuff, which I'm not really too fussed about in this instance because we're not really dealing with EQs. None of the other ones really had that. We're just worrying about, level and how smashy it can get, or how smashy does it get at high gain levels. But we can't go any louder than 12 on this, which is kind of annoying because it would be good to see if we could test it on a little bit more. But let's just see what we can do with this XL, because this is like a low-endy kind of thing, like a chunkiness. Bring it down, then bring it up. Okay, so it's not a soft clipper, I don't think, but it's allowing us to get a little bit more overall level in there at the cost of it getting a little tiny bit smashier. So, horses for courses. Let's take a listen then, because we've kind of made them all sound sort of as good as possible. So I'm going to do a quick level match on all of them and see which one sounds the most natural, see which one, if it's not natural, do we like the sound of it? And that's the most important thing. It can be aggressive, it can be smashy, but if we actually like it, then it's okay. So what we should hear is it gets quite open and then it gets progressively more closed as we go down. If this is the case still, I'd be interested to see, but hopefully we're going to start off with something open and then it's just going to get a little more closed off and we'll kind of be proven that, I don't know, what does it prove? It doesn't really prove a whole lot, does it, to be honest? It just kind of proves that all limiters have a limit at which they can't compress anymore, because it was like 12 dB, wasn't it? Most of them could get 12 dB compression, and then after that, it changed drastically. And they were smashy at 12 dB, or kind of smashy. At 5 dB, they weren't that smashy, but anything above 12 was kind of the no man's land. They all got a bit crazy after that, but whatever. Let's have a listen. We just completely lose that snare when we get L2 on there, don't we? Let's take a listen to L2 versus FGX2. Interesting. I would have said from that FGX2 is probably the most transparent of all of them that I can see. There's lots of controls we haven't got into there because it would take hours. But as a kind of first setting and then a little bit of tweaking, FGX2 got a lot of level and we were able to make it sound pretty transparent. L2, I'm going to kind of set aside. It's far older than the rest of them as well. It's not got the kind of new tech, it's not got the new ways of doing stuff. Maybe the L3 or some of the newer ones will be better, but L2 is the one that's known, isn't it? I was surprised that L2 was quite so clean. That was good. I'm surprised more people don't use FGX2 though when compared to Pro L2, because to my ear, it sounded better. It sounded less aggressive, but marginally. Line Master is, I think, probably one of the cheapest ones there. It's not a lot of money, and to get that saturation in there as well, and to be able to boost up the low end and the high end into it is really unique. So I like that a lot. Maximizer, it's just great with the amount of control you have over all these algorithms. It did get very transparent when we got to RC4 Transient. A lot of these were more crunchy, and you just have a load of tonal variation in there. So I would have said for a bona fide limiter with the most controls in there, the most possibilities, you probably got to go with Ozone with the maximizer because of the soft clipper, the transient emphasis and all that. We didn't really touch upon transient emphasis, but it is in there. I would have said that's probably your winner for the most amount of controls. I think FGX is kind of just the limiter or the FGX2 itself is kind of the most fully featured in terms of the compressor, which I might add does sound great. I haven't shown you it here, but it does sound really good. I've got another video on that actually. I can advertise that now. Check it out up there, or is it there? Check it out up there somewhere, where I went into it in depth, and it is good. It is great. Smashiest Pro has got loads of stuff in there, and I think if you're being a little gentler with it, then it's going to be good. Maybe the fact that it goes up to just plus 12 dB is telling, and maybe they know that it gets super smashy after that, so they didn't give you the option. I don't know. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but to me, it got a little bit aggressive. So there you go. I'd love to hear what your favourite limiter is, if it's one of those or another one completely. Have I missed out any glaring limiter that everyone knows is completely transparent and is the best limiter, bar none? I want to hear about it, obviously. Let me know in the comments. But until then, I'll see you next time. Take care.